It's time. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with DREW DOBER. Drew, how are you doing, man?
Pretty awesome. My rest day, getting to roll with these guys, and having fun.
Yeah, Drew is mentioning myself, my co-host Kevin, who is doing the ones and twos behind the camera. I did not know we were pulling you aside on your rest day because you have a fight coming up in about 3 weeks' time, right?
Yes, they're sending me out to Canada to fight a TriStar competitor.
What's the name of the person you're fighting?
Aubin.
Come on.
Aubin-Mercier.
Yes.
Mercier.
Yes.
So I'm going to butcher his name in every single interview.
We do that too. We actually on our podcast refer to him as Museviku.
Okay.
Because I was like, that's way easier than trying to say his real name. But I hope he doesn't watch this. Oh God. I'm flashing before my eyes, my life. Drew, that's great. How did this fight come together?
Generally, the UFC likes sending me to other countries and fighting the hometown hero. And so I haven't been to Canada yet, so I guess that's the next route.
So where have you been? I know it was, Brazil, Germany?
Mexico City.
That's right.
And then I fought Jamie Varner in his hometown. So, yeah.
Okay, so last time we talked to you, you were on the podcast. We did a thing. You were very nicely offering to do a journalism article with me where we bet on fighters and whatnot. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But what have you been up to in the past year?
It's been a big year. So me and my wife had a formal marriage after the shenanigans that went down in April where my Russian opponent tested positive for something illegal and the fight got canceled.
So talk to me about that, because fight camps are tough, but is it finding out that a fight camp for not a fight is even worse?
It's the feeling of spending all morning making this birthday cake, decorating it, and just before you're over at your friend's place, you drop it on his doorstep. And then you have to explain to him, I put in a lot of work, and it looked great, but I wish you guys should have saw it.
Wow. I like that you really go to the mom shame that's like, I've put in a lot of work and a lot of love into that, and you just threw it all away. Well, obviously that was a terrible thing. So when that does get canceled, and what's the first thing that goes through your mind when that does happen?
Just utter confusion. I mean, I think how the dialogue went was they told me my opponent tested positive, and I was like, do you want me to kick his ass now? Or like, oh no, the fight's canceled. I was like, you're shitting me, right? And so then it's just a matter of like, man, it's like nothing to prove, or nothing to show for it. My wife was super excited though, because I got to celebrate my formal wedding with no black eye. So she was pretty content.
You keep saying formal wedding. We need to discuss the actual language of this, because nothing's more romantic than, babe, you want to get informally married? It's the equivalent of, are we doing this, or is that the case, or why do you call it an informal marriage?
So 2 years ago, informally, after my Brazilian shenanigans, we decided to fly down to Vegas and just cut the engagement time and just get married in Vegas. So we decided to dress up as our stereotypical backgrounds. And so being German, she wore lederhosen. I was the American cowboy. And our witnesses were Chun-Li and a rabbi. So that was extremely informal. And so formally, I then a year later wore a tuxedo.
Did you get to choose Chun-Li, or was she part of a package?
Well, they were our roommates at the time, so she's Japanese, so I mean it was a matter of course. And then
you want to be respectful, of course.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it was a kimono, so it was a formal attire.
Yep.
And then my other roommate was a Seth Daniels Fight to Win promoter who's Jewish, and so he formally wore the rabbi outfit with the curls and everything.
Let's discuss this, because what part does this get brought up in the conversation where you're like, hey, look at us, we're a freaking United Nations over here, let's make this happen?
I think it was just during the conversation of Las Vegas, what do we do down there? Do we want Elvis marrying us? Or let's go to the White Wedding Chapel like The Hangover? What are we going to dress up as? And so, yeah, it was a very fun, interesting wedding. So formally, a year later, we had to do like the whole kit and caboodle.
And you were doing that while getting ready for a fight?
It was actually, unfortunately, after when the Russians stood me up in Florida. So I had the pleasure of just focusing on the marriage and then celebrating the honeymoon and then coming back and getting absolutely embarrassed in this gym for a good 3 weeks.
Well, you're talking about this gym. This is Muscle Farm, and we can't thank you enough for the invitation because Drew invited us to come here. It's akin, though, to being invited to your own death because him and a very surprising drop-in from one Matt Brown, the immortal, just coming in and beating the shit out of us for a little while here. How did you get hooked up with Muscle Farm? And for the people who don't know about it, tell them just a little bit of what makes it so unique.
So I just came out here 3 years ago, I believe, for just a training vacation. I saw a lot of potential, and Muscle Farm was slowly getting after the kind of like the MMA scene. And so when I came out here and saw the opportunity, once I did make the move out here, they decided to put one step forward and really focus on MMA. And so then TJ Dillashaw, Matt Brown, Clay Guida, a lot of top superstars were coming here to train. And in response to that supply and demand, then Muscle Farm started supplying the recovery, the conditioning, and like this entire venue, which consists of everything and more. And so being here, being with these superstars in this facility, it's a blessing and it's a huge opportunity.
It's a blessing and a curse because you see the training that happens here as well. The curse is the after effect,
yes.
the training hangover. The blessing is obviously the caliber of folks that you're training with here. The facility here is amazing, by the way. I would show you it, but I think we're legally obligated to not show any footage of it. But just know that we may have overstayed our welcome here because we're trying to go into every room and just stay there. So Drew, you obviously, you noticed that's coming up. Okay, talk to me about this fight because there's an important thing that we need to note about it. I know we talked about it earlier. I know we talked about your international travels, but we're just dancing around the fact that it's close to Thanksgiving. What the hell are you going to do? Because I know you're a fat kid at heart. That's part of the reason why we get along is because I know you like show up and then you get shredded and you're like, oh, great. And I'm like, oh, man, that's so great for Drew. This fight is amazing, but these nachos are better, am I right? So for you, how do you do this?
So unfortunately, I chose the life of feast and famine and then famine and feast. So unfortunately, I got to live vicariously through my wife in this Thanksgiving. However, we really make it up post-fight during Christmas. So I sacrifice Thanksgiving so I can go harder in Christmas.
How quickly do you put back on the weight? Because you were telling us off air that it happens within a day's time. Is that right?
Unfortunately, yeah, I put on 25 pounds in 24 hours after weigh-ins.
Listen, I'm in no way, shape, or form able to call someone a fat kid. But, I mean, if the shoe fits here, I mean, let's be real honest. How do you put it on so quickly? What's your first go-to food when that happens?
Generally, the first thing I can reach for. So, I mean, I try to keep things clean because I'm about to get punched in the face in a 24-hour notice. But unfortunately, because I'm built like a centaur with giant legs, I mean, I can eat 2 chicken breasts and I'm back to like 180. So it happens pretty easily.
I would like to confirm the amount of leg that you have, whether it be like thigh or trying to move it while rolling, is almost impossible. You're like a brick that you just can't pick up, and you're like, what the hell is wrong with them? I know I'm supposed to pass like this, but I just can't move it. And then meanwhile, Drew's just looking at you like, yeah, I know, sucks, huh? So, good for him. Okay, so the fight comes up a few weeks. Talk to me about this because there's an important thing we need to discuss, I guess, just between our history, which is that Drew, normally a stand-up guy, been on our show, super nice, super cordial, invites us to come here. But Drew, you're kind of a runner. Like, I thought that you weren't afraid of things, but turns out you're kind of afraid of something. What are you afraid of, Drew?
So, unfortunately, I lost a bet because I'm horrible at calling fights.
And I'm not.
And my punishment was I had to, describe in many ways how Jar Jar Binks is the best character in Star Wars. And unfortunately, there was not a whole lot of facts behind that. And so it wasn't more running. It was more so just doesn't exist.
Let's discuss this. Who came up with that as the bet? Because that's the part that really gets me.
Yeah, I definitely came up with it.
So not only did you come up with the bet, but then you didn't fulfill the bet. And I very nicely was like, hey, Drew, it's been a month. You going to do this? And Drew's like, oh, yeah, I'm right on top of it. 100%. And I'm like, okay, 2 months go by. Drew, listen, I can't beat you up. So I can't force you to do this. But you know that your word and your honor is to do this bet. And you're like, yeah, sure, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it. Will you do it to the camera right now? Will you tell us for 1 minute straight? Because I'll time it on my phone right now. Now, you have to make a convincing argument because we're going to put this up out of context. But I need you to make a convincing argument because you made the qualm that Jar Jar Binks is the best character in Star Wars. You said that's exactly what you would have to make the argument for 1 minute as you look into the camera as a giant Star Wars nerd who also has a Star Wars jacket. So you have the credentials. You've seen the movies. You know what's up. I'm putting 1 minute on the clock. Sir, ready, set, go.
Okay, in the beginning, with the Phantom Menace, without Jar Jar Binks, the entire role of the entire movie with the Gungans, helping the majority of the war, would have never happened. He moved on to become, a government agent with the Gungans, with the Alliance and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. He was working behind the scenes with the Jedi, with, the Skywalker, family getting bigger. I mean, he was working behind the scenes. Possibly setting things in action.
You're just naming facts. It's a timeline.
Yeah.
Why is he so great, though?
Because without him, these wheels and gears would not be in motion. And one could assume that towards the end, who is Snoke other than Jar Jar Binks?
Do we know that for sure, though?
You don't know for sure. And I don't think Jar Jar Binks will allow you to know.
Interesting. Are you saying he's way more deceptive and wily than we are led to believe?
All I know is I'm just tossing out bullshit, hoping you guys pick up on it.
Listen, I'm just hoping at this point that you're covering your ass. But I think what you're making the argument is, and I'm not leading, I'm just picking up what you're putting down, which is he's the greatest character ever. Can you say that to the camera?
Oh, God.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I cannot say that to the camera.
Listen, your time is about to expire. Just once in the camera, who's the best character in Star Wars of all time? And remember, you lost a bet. You lost a bet, so.
Jar Jar Binks is the best character in Star Wars of all time.
Listen, I don't want to say that I enjoyed that a ton, but I really did. And it was worth waiting because here's the thing, Drew. I watch you under pressure. You get punched in the face. You've gotten unnecessarily submitted when you really didn't submit. Like, you've had a lot of shit happen to you. But nothing's funnier to me than you running away and being like, I just don't want to say it. I just don't make me do it. And I'm like, I didn't come up with the bet. This is your bet. I would have had to do the same. So I feel good about that. Drew, can we take care of any sponsors? Anybody you want to give shout-outs to? All that good stuff?
I just want to shout out to Muscle Farm for allowing you guys to come out here and train, giving me the amount of opportunity to become the best fighter I can to be. So, Muscle Farm.
That's a great person to shout out and a great company. So we thank them for allowing us to come in, stop in, get beat up today. If you guys are in the Denver area, come find out for yourselves. Muscle Farm is the shit, okay? You guys won't regret it. And then they're going to remove you, though, at some point. I've discovered this. They've told me this off air. They're like, you have to leave at some point today. So we're going to make the most of it. Drew, I can't thank you enough. You came here today, on your day off again to come train with us. It's a pretty good guy. I appreciate it. And Drew, if you were to say one nice thing about Verbal Tap, because we're about to celebrate our 4-year anniversary, 200 episodes, do you think that's symbolic? Do you think that's impressive? Where do you fall on the line for 4 years, 200 episodes of Verbal Tap Podcast?
I think 200 episodes is an accomplishment in itself. People are still watching. You guys are absolutely hilarious. And they come out here and train with UFC fighters. And so you got to give them credit for that.
Absolutely. We know our demo. We know they like seeing us get beat up. And that's the whole thing. We'll make the jokes, but then, I definitely looked at Brett Brown today and was like, I've made jokes about you. And he's like, yeah, I know. It's like, all right, well, he's a dangerous human being. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Muscle Farm again. I want to thank Drew Dober again. Catch him fighting next month at UFC
206.
That's right. It's a big one. It's going to be going down in Canada. We cannot wait for it. Thank you so much, Drew. I appreciate your time, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Keep it locked here at verbaltapcast.com, guys.